Okay, so your review packet. Let's kind of start from the beginning and we'll just go section by section and I'll kind of walk you through it. So the first line says, recall that the graph of an equation is in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, is a line that has a slope of m and a y-intercept of b. And we're going to use this form to write an equation of a line if you know its slope and its y-intercept. Okay, so y equals mx plus b. I feel like we have been talking about this for years at this point. Y equals mx plus b is the constant theme throughout this entire chapter. So it's super important. M is the slope, b, is the y-intercept. So let's write these three equations down here. It says if your slope is -2 and your y-intercept is 5. So every single time y equals m, which is the slope, times x plus the y-intercept, which is b, so 5. So on the next one, you should have got y equals 8x minus 7. If you wrote plus -7, that's the same thing. And then on number 3, y equals 3/4 x minus 3. So it's always the slope times x and then the y-intercept. So on the next section, it says, if you know the point where a line crosses the y-axis, which remember, the point where a line crosses the y-axis is called the y-intercept, and any other point on the line, you can write an equation. So step 1 is to find the slope. Okay, so let's just come down here, and I'm going to write y equals blank x and then another blank. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is find the slope. So remember slope dude from 8th grade or from 7th grade and from earlier on this year. Okay, he's going to rise 1, 2, 3, 4, run 1, 2, 3. So that's a slope of 4/3. Moving left to right, puff, puff, positive, he went up 4/3. And then the y-intercept is where it's crossing the y-axis. So this is the y-axis. This is at -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So y equals 4/3 x minus 5 would be my answer. So on this next one, right, every single time we're going to look for the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope is down 1 over 1, 2. So y equals -1/2 x. And then where is it crossing the y-axis? So let's see if we can just do it visually. So down 1 over 2 or up 1 over -2, this is where it would cross the y-axis. So plus 1. Okay, the next part says, recall that the graphs of linear functions are lines. You can use slope-intercept form to write a linear function. Write an equation for the linear function f with these values. Okay, and then I've kind of written out the slope, or the steps here. So step 1 is to write them as ordered pairs, find your slope, and then write using the slope and y-intercept. So let's look at this first one. So 0, 5, and then 4, 17. Because remember, it's f of x, so this is x equals y. So finding the slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So 17 minus 5 would be 12 over 4 is 3. So we found our slope, and then what we need to remember is that if x is 0, whatever y is, that's going to be our y-intercept. Okay, because where it crosses the y-axis has to have an x of 0. If we went back up here and wrote down this ordered pair, it's 0, -5. This one is 0, 1. Every time the x is 0. So when the x was 0, the y was 5. So we know the slope because we just found it. So y equals 3x, and then the y-intercept would be plus 5. Okay, we can do the same process for the next two. The ordered pairs are 0, -2, and 8, 4. So we're going to find the slope, 4 minus -2 over 8 minus 0. That's 6 over 8, which is 3 over 4. And then my y-intercept, right, if I'm looking at these ones, these ordered pairs, this one has an x of 0. So our slope is y equals 3/4 x minus 2 because it has a y-intercept of -2. So why don't you try the next one on your own, right? And then come back and check your work. Okay, so you should have written down -3/6 and then 0/5. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the slope 5 minus 6 over 0 minus -3. That's -1/3. This is our slope. And then which one would be your y-intercept? It's the one that has an x of 0. So I'm just going to fill it in. Y equals -1/3 x plus 5. And that's my answer. Okay, so this was everything that we did from section 1. Okay, y equals mx plus b. When you're given the point and the y-intercept, or 2 points, you can find the slope. Then we can write the equation in slope-intercept form. So let's look at section 2. Okay, this is the same concept, except this time we're not given the b, right? We're not going to be given the y-intercept. So we're going to have to use some equation solving skills to solve for b. So I wrote out the steps for you on the top. Step number 1 is to identify the slope. Step number 2 is to find the y-intercept. So if it's not given to you, if you don't have one where the x is 0, we're going to substitute the slope and the coordinates of the given point into y equals mx plus b to solve it for b. So let's do one. Okay, so identify the slope, m equals 2. So we're going to find the y-intercept. Does this have an x value of 0? No. So we're going to substitute x, y, and m into y equals mx plus b. So y equals m times x plus b. So 3 equals 12 plus b, and then I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides to get -9 equals b. So now I have the slope I was given and the y-intercept, and I can write y equals mx plus b. Okay, and it's m is 2 because that's what I was given, and then I found that b has to be -9. Okay, you can even check it. Remember, we can plug in 2 times 6 is 12, minus 9 is 3, and that's what the value of y is, so I know I got it right. Okay, let's look at number 2. Same process. We're given the slope. This is x, this is y. So we can plug it in to y equals m times x plus b, right? So I'll just write it under here. Oops. So y equals, this is m, this is x, and then that's b. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute or multiply that -5. So 7 equals 20 plus b. I subtract 20 to get -13 is b. So y would equal -5x minus 13. The m I was given, the b is what I found. And then we have one more. So y is -11. That equals 1/2 times x, which is -3, plus b. Y equals mx plus b. So -11 equals -1/2 of 3 is 1.5, or you could write it as 3/2. So 1.5 plus b. So now I'm going to add 1.5 to both sides, right, because I'm trying to cancel that out. They're different signs, subtract. So 11 minus 1 is 10, minus another half is 9.5. Okay, if you used fractions, you would have had, I'll write it over here, -22/2, and then plus 3/2, which would have given you -19/2, which is the same thing as -9.5. So y equals, I lost the slope, there we go, -1/2 x minus 9.5. So what if you are given a graph, okay? What we can do is we can find our 2 points. This point is 2, 0. The next point is 3, 2. Now we're going to repeat the exact same process. We're going to find the slope, 2 minus 0 over 3 minus 2. So 2 minus 0 is 2, and then 3 minus 2 is 1. Wait, I messed up. 3, 2, oh, hello, negative 2, 0. So look, when I did that and I realized I made a mistake, because if I know my slope is 2 over 1, that's rise 2, run 1. Okay, and so I kind of self-checked and I'm like, well, that cannot be right. Okay, so if this is negative 2, that changes it because it's 3 minus negative 2. 3 minus negative 2 is positive 5. This makes much more sense because the slope connecting these 2 points is rise 2, run 5. Okay, so I have my slope. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it in just like I did up here. I can use either one of these points. I'm going to pick the one with the 0. So y equals m times x, which is negative 2, plus b. So 0 equals negative 4/5 plus b. Then I'm going to go ahead and add 4/5 to both sides. So 4/5 equals b. And now I know my slope is 2/5 and my y-intercept is 4/5. So y equals 2/5 x plus 4 over 5. And that makes sense because it looks like it's almost on 1, but it's not quite, which would make sense with 4 over 5. Okay, so if we're given 2 points, we're going to find the slope, step number 1, negative 1 minus 5. And again, these steps are at the top. So negative 1 minus 5 over 2 minus negative 2. Negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6 over 4, which is negative 3 over 2. And so now what I'm going to do is pick either one of these points. I'm just going to use this one. It really doesn't matter. Y equals m times x plus b. Okay, again, this is the m that I just found, and then I'm using this for y and this for x. So I can cross reduce. 5 equals negative 3 plus b. I'm going to add 3 to both sides to get 8 equals b. So y equals mx plus b. So on number 6, we're going to do 4 minus negative 2 over negative 5 minus 1. That's 6 over negative 6, which is a slope of negative 1. Now that I have my slope of negative 1, I can pick either point. I'm just going to use that first one. Y equals m times x plus b. So negative 2 equals negative 1 plus b. We're going to add 1 to both sides to get negative 1 equals b. So y equals negative 1x plus b, which is negative 1, so minus 1. Right, and again, we can go back and we can take either one of these points, and I should be able to plug it in and it will make it true. So, for example, if I took this point right here and I wanted to check it, okay, my equation says that y should equal negative 1 times x minus 1. So does 4 equal negative 1 times negative 5 minus 1? Yes, so I know I got it right. Okay, same process here, except they're linear functions. So we're going to set them up the same way. This point is 4, 9. This point is negative 4, negative 7. So negative 7 minus 9 over negative 4 minus 4. Negative 7 minus 9 is negative 16 over negative 8. So that's a slope of 2. So I can pick any point I want. I'm just going to pick this first one. Y equals m times x plus b. This is 8. So 9 equals 8 plus b. Subtract 8, so 1 is b. So y equals the m that I found times x plus b. So 2 times x plus 1 should give us y. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9. 2 times -4 is -8 plus 1 is -7. Okay, here our points are -2, 10, and 4, -3. So to find the slope, -3 minus 10 over 4 minus -2. -3 minus 10 is -13. 4 minus -2 is +6. I'm looking at this problem and I'm wondering if it's a typo, because that's kind of a weird slope. We're going to work it out and we're going to see. So I'm going to use, let's see, this point. So y equals m times x plus b. So I can cross reduce 6 and 4 to make that 2 and 3. So -3 would equal -26 over 3 plus b. Okay, I think this was a typo. I wouldn't necessarily give you anything this kind of complicated on your test, but we can power through it and figure it out. So -3 is going to equal -8 2/3 plus b. So how do I get rid of -8 2/3? I add it to both sides. They're going to be different signs, subtract. So that's going to give me 5. Let me double check it. I said that too quick. Let me come up here and show you how I'm doing this. So -3 plus 8 2/3 equals b.